On the day I become Alpha Ethan Sadler's mate, he tells me, "Our mate bond is merely to honor the promise between our elders. You will be my Luna by name. You shall have everything in my name, except my love." For 3 years, I obediently played the role of his maiden name. Then a socialite named Sophia Kirk hands me a check for $2 million, urging me to leave Ethan. Ethan said your mate bond exists only to repay the debts of the older generation. It's a necessary sacrifice. Now he needs a real family and a mate who can bear his heir. You've wasted 3 years of his life. It's time to let go. It turns out Ethan already has a lover. It is indeed inappropriate for me to take the place of his Luna any longer. That night I approach Ethan, who is going through some documents. "You once promised to give me anything I wanted. Does that promise still hold?" Ethan sets down the documents, removes his metal-rimmed glasses, and loosens his tie. His ashen eyes swirl with emotions, and an eager smile curves his lips. "Of course. Tell me what you want." I tighten my grip on the bond-breaking agreement I am holding and place it before him. "I want you to sign this." It had been 3 years since I became Alpha Ethan Sadler's mate. Everyone had said that it was a mere stroke of luck that I became the Luna of Silvercrest Pack. However, no one would ever know that the mate bond between Ethan and me had nothing to do with love. It all began with my grandfather, who had been a reputable elder within our pack. He had fallen ill due to an accident. By chance, Ethan's grandfather had recognized him when he was visiting an old friend. Ethan's grandfather had been a legendary alpha and a sworn friend of my grandfather. They had fought alongside each other in a past war. As the two elderly men reminisced about their past, Grandpa sounded choked up when he brought me up in their conversation. His only concern right then was that my stepmother and her family, having burned through our ancestral property, might eventually exchange me for money after he passed. Ethan's grandfather couldn't bear to see him being so devastated, even as his time was coming to an end. Instantly, he decided to take me in as his granddaughter-in-law, so that I was under the protection of the Alpha of Silvercrest Pack. The next day, I was informed of the sudden marriage despite having only just met Ethan the day before. On the day after that, we had our bonding ceremony before the Temple of the Moon Goddess. After receiving our bonding scroll, Ethan vowed, "We are to be mates only nominally, and no bodily contact will occur between us. As long as you carry out your role as the Luna dutifully, I can give you anything you want, save for my affection." I was rather relieved after listening to him. After all, it was just impossible for me to wholeheartedly accept a wolf whom I'd only known for 3 days to be my mate. Just like that, we started living together, interacting with polite distance. I was initially cautious, but Ethan turned out to be an alpha with no faults. In my everyday life, the butler, Marcus Lowell, and the household staff took great care of me. Financially, Ethan established a trust fund for me that was worth an unimaginable amount, and also gave me a black credit card with no spending limit. He also displayed his loyalty toward me as my mate. I'd never seen news of him interacting with other she-wolves on social media, even though no one in the pack knew he'd already had a Luna. As time went by, I gradually lost myself in this stable and dignified relationship. In fact, I even naively thought we could spend the rest of our lives peacefully together. I forgot that he'd never loved me, so naturally, there was no way he would allow me to be his Luna forever. Last night, Ethan didn't come back. He would spend the night outside occasionally when an emergency cropped up at work. It was supposed to be nothing out of the ordinary. However, it was different this time. I watched a video that was circulating on social media, one that portrayed Ethan gently putting his coat over a healer, Sophia Kirk, during a banquet. Sophia was a charismatic healer with a gentle voice. She had lustrous hair and a smile as captivating as starlight on still water. In the video, she gazed at him bashfully, her radiant eyes shining ever so brightly. It was just like how the movies portrayed a she-wolf falling head over heels in love. In the 3 years Ethan and I shared a mate bond, it was the first time that a video of him interacting with another she-wolf had hit the public eye so relentlessly. The entertainment news industry was in a frenzy. The Alpha of Silvercrest Pack dates well-known healer Sophia. Could this be the rise of a new Luna? Praises flooded the comments section, saying they were a match made in heaven, and were like a perfect couple. Without realizing it, I ran my finger across Ethan's gentle side profile on the screen. A nagging, long-ignored pain throbbed in my heart. They were right. Ethan and Sophia looked like they were made for each other. The next morning, I met Ethan in the dining room. I didn't know when he returned. Not that he was obligated to inform me of his whereabouts. "Have you seen the news online?" he asked. As his clear voice reached my ears, I paused in the midst of sipping my milk and looked up at him. "What news?" I pretended to be unaware. His gaze lingered scrutinizingly on my expression. Then he said nonchalantly, "It's nothing. Just some boring, baseless news." I let out a soft hum in response. As I lowered my eyes, my eyelashes cast a shadow over my eyes, hiding the swirling emotions within. I continued having my breakfast. After some time, Ethan spoke again. "I guess it's a good thing that you didn't see them." His deep voice seemed to be tinged with mixed feelings, which I had difficulty distinguishing. He seemed relieved yet somehow disappointed. My heart clenched. Perhaps he was hoping I would cause a fuss over the incident, so that he could go with the flow and suggest that we break our mate bond. With that, he could then get rid of me, a burden cast onto him by the older generation. I thought that by being silent and submissive, I'd be able to stay by his side for a bit longer. Yet I forgot that no matter how hard I strived, I could never keep what wasn't mine in the first place. "Thanks for meeting me today." Across from me sat the highly sought-after healer as of now, Sophia. When the butler informed me that she was here, I instinctively wanted to turn down her request for a meeting. However, I knew avoiding her wouldn't get me anywhere. For how long could I refuse to meet her? I went straight to the point. "Is there anything you want to talk to me about?" Sophia gracefully picked up the cup of coffee before her. Her smile was outrageously sweet. In the presence of her radiance, I felt like I was as dull as a rock by the roadside. "Ethan and I were classmates at the Werewolf Academy. I don't think he has told you about it, has he?" she asked with a chuckle, as though that bit of the past was nothing worth mentioning. My chest tightened as I nodded. "No, he hasn't. However, Ethan told me about you," Sophia said. Her tone changed, now carrying a hint of sympathy as she asked, "You're the Luna forced onto him by the elders 3 years ago, aren't you?" "Forced onto him, so that was the phrase he used when he described our relationship to Sophia." Although that was a fact, a sharp pain still pierced my heart, as though a knife was slicing clean through it. "That's right." I remained expressionless, and my voice was calm. I was undoubtedly in pain, but I didn't want to respond in any way that might give her a sense of satisfaction. Sophia smiled, feeling pleased. She slowly retrieved a check from her branded purse and slid it over to me. The check had $2 million written on it. Her fingers didn't leave the check immediately. Instead, she gently clicked her polished nails against the table. She was so composed, it was as though she had all the time in the world. "I'm not sure if you've seen a check before, but I guarantee you it's real. I hope you can leave Ethan's side." "Was he the one who sent you?" I hated how my voice sounded raspy as I asked that question. Sophia shook her head as she leaned closer. With a lowered voice, as though she was whispering, she tried to stab me where it hurt most. "Ethan told me your mate bond was purely a dutiful cause, a step taken to mend the political rifts left behind by the elders decades ago. Now he needs to live life to the fullest and be with a proper Luna, someone with whom he could build a future, someone he chooses to be with." Then she sat back calmly, as though she hadn't been trying to break me with a smile on her face just seconds ago. "Elena, you've hindered him long enough. Give him back his freedom." I didn't accept Sophia's check. I'd taken her rightful place as Luna for so long, and I had no right to take her money. A year ago, Grandpa passed. I thought Ethan would break our mate bond instantly, but he didn't. A grand funeral was held for Grandpa, and Ethan single-handedly handled it. Meanwhile, my so-called father, my stepmother, and her family had given up their rights of guardianship and custody of me ever since they found out Grandpa's treatment would cost a staggering amount. They disappeared from my life thereafter. The very reason I agreed to the marriage was because Ethan promised to shoulder all of Grandpa's treatment expenses. During the darkest time of my life, which was filled with despair, Ethan stayed by me through it all. Whenever I cried silently under the covers in the dead of night, without a word, he would enter the bedroom. He would sit on the edge of the bed, only leaving after I fell asleep from all the crying. When all food tasted bland to me, he would head into the kitchen and make me a steaming hot meal of macaroni. When I felt lonely and abandoned, he even gifted me a pot of exotic moonshine lily. Its bluish glow lit up the dark, as though it was trying to tell me I was no longer alone. I shouldn't have lied to myself. I'd since long been helplessly in love with Ethan. However, I wasn't the person he loved. He was such a remarkable person. How could I selfishly keep him by my side and keep him from achieving happiness? That night, I went to the study. Ethan, seated behind the huge desk, seemed more distant than ever. I slowly walked up to him and took a deep breath. You said once that I could ask for anything I wanted. Is that promise still valid? Ethan paused. Then he slowly put down the document he was holding. He removed the metal-rimmed glasses from the bridge of his nose. Anticipation gleamed in his eyes. There was even a hint of a smile on his lips. Of course it is. Come, tell me what you want. He looked so expectant, as though he had been waiting for this very moment for a long time. It turned out that he could wait no longer. My fingers clenched tighter on the bond-breaking agreement I was holding as I placed it before him, just under the light. I wish for you to sign this. His smile froze on his face. The silence felt suffocating. The bond-breaking agreement was like a grenade about to go off any moment as it lay between us. Under the light, it glowed a searing white. Tears welled up in my eyes. Before they could trickle down my cheeks, I did my best to finish my statement. I've signed where I'm supposed to. After you sign it, we can go to the Department of Werewolf Affairs tomorrow to file the paperwork. With that, I immediately turned and left the study. The moment I did, I could no longer hold back my tears. Upon returning to my room, I hid myself under the covers and burst out crying. It was the second time in my entire life that I'd cried so hard. Somehow, I felt worse than the first time, when Grandpa passed away. Loving someone shouldn't have hurt so much that they wound up with swollen eyes and numb limbs. However, that was what I currently felt. I couldn't sleep that night. I stared at myself in the mirror, at my red, swollen eyes and weary expression. Sniffling, I told myself that I should never let Ethan notice that I'd been crying. I plastered on layers of concealer, until all the telltale signs could no longer be seen before heading out of the bedroom. I thought Ethan would be having breakfast in the dining room. He might avoid looking me in the eye, or perhaps he might pretend that nothing had happened. Perhaps he'd already signed the agreement gladly, and was only too eager to dump me. However, Marcus told me, Luna Elena, Alpha Ethan has already left the house. Surprised, I looked up. He has left. Yes, he left early this morning. He didn't say where he was going. I was confused to hear that. Wasn't Ethan anxious to break our mate bond? Why would he leave so early? And he didn't let anyone know his whereabouts at that. It was as if instead of avoiding me, he was avoiding something else. Were there any urgent pack affairs that Ethan had to see to? But how pressing could it be for him not even to have time to sign the papers? I waited in the empty villa from dawn till midnight. The next morning, as I went downstairs, I could already tell what Marcus was about to say, judging from the look on his face. Luna Elena, Alpha Ethan didn't return last night. I couldn't wait any longer. Fingers trembling, I picked up my phone and called Ethan. Once and again every time. The dial tone echoed throughout the silent villa, each tone stinging like a slap. When I called the fourth time, it was the same cold, endless dial tone. The fifth time I redialed Ethan's number, a message flashed across the screen. It read, "The number you're calling is currently in use." What happened? It occurred to me that he'd blocked me. Utterly speechless, the last ridiculous shred of hope inside me died quietly. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of Silvercrest Pack, Ethan glared at his phone with a frosty expression. The dark circles beneath his eyes were daunting. He was like a trapped beast, pacing the office back and forth, exuding a cold yet dangerous air. His phone was placed face down on the table. He almost flung it out of the window twice. When he saw the state his usually level-headed best friend was in, Cameron Duffel, Ethan's beta, could no longer hold in his laughter. He burst out laughing. To think the alpha of Silvercrest Pack would end up in this state. It seems Luna Elena is truly the one fated for you. The one who would subdue you. There's no running away from her. A priceless mug flew toward him in a perfect projectile motion. Cameron swiftly caught it, lamenting, "Hey, I'm not the one breaking your heart. Don't let it out on me." A document folder was flung at him next. Ethan's brooding voice rang out. "You were the one who came up with that crap of an idea, telling me to attend that darn banquet. You said I had to keep Elena on her toes so that she's aware of how important I am to her. Yet now that she'd watched that video, she shoved the bond-breaking agreement in my face." Cameron raised his arms in surrender. "Hey, buddy, you were the one who came running to me, complaining that you wanted to know what she felt toward you. All I did was give you a suggestion. Seeing as how she wants to break up, don't you think the answer is clear enough?" Ethan's eyes narrowed. His gaze was so cold it could freeze the burning sun. Camion felt his hair rise. He was about to slip away when Ethan's following words pinned him to the spot. "If Elena leaves, I'll submit an anonymous article telling of the love story between you and your ex-lover to the publisher, and make sure your current lover, Louise, reads it. I guarantee you that the romantic affairs of a beta will be the headline of the year." Cameron inhaled sharply. "Ethan, no. I take back my words, every single one of them." Before he could further plead for mercy, Ethan's subordinate, Frank Javel, dashed in as though a ghost were after him. "Alpha Ethan, Luna Elena is here." His words scared Ethan so badly that he almost fell off his chair. Cameron howled. "What? Holy shit. Luna Elena sure is quick to act." The Department of Werewolf Affairs stipulated that there should be a 1-month consideration period before any wolf decides whether or not to terminate their mate bonds. But it seems she's not even going to give you another day to think about it. You're doomed, Alpha Ethan. Elena's dead set on leaving you. During these 3 years of being Ethan's mate, I'd seldom come to the training grounds of Silvercrest Pack. Only his assistant, Frank, knew me. I had wanted to ask him to take me to Ethan, but he was nowhere to be seen. Just as I was about to call him again, someone unexpected approached me. "Luna Elena, are you here for Alpha Ethan?" Cameron walked toward me with a bright smile. There was a suspicious red mark on his cheek. It looked as though he had just gotten hit. Smiling, I nodded and hummed in acknowledgement. "Could you take me to the training grounds?" "Of course." But Cameron looked regretful as he continued. "I fear you can't meet Ethan now. He's having combat training with the new warriors." He firmly ordered that no one was to interrupt. My doubts were cleared. It turned out Ethan had indeed left in a hurry because there were important pack affairs to be attended to. "Well, do you still want to see him?" Cameron pointed in the direction of the training grounds. "It's okay." I shook my head. I should wait for him at home. After all, he would return sooner or later. After I left, Cameron instantly returned to the lounge beside the training grounds, feeling smug. "I've managed to persuade your darling Luna to return home. Don't you ever blab about me to Louise, do you hear me?" Ethan stood before the one-way mirror, unable to stop gazing after me as I left. Without any hint of empathy, Cameron continued in a bratty tone. "Look at you. Luna Elena has already been your Luna for 3 years. Under the witness of the moon goddess, you and she are mates protected by the law. Even if you hadn't initially been interested in her, you'd fallen for her later on. You both live together, so how could you still not have won her over? You have the looks, the high social status, and are capable. You're flawless. How could she not like you? You must reflect on your shortcomings." He rambled on, and on until Ethan turned around. Ethan was fuming, like a volcano ready to erupt. It was then that Cameron came to a realization and stopped talking. "Well then, tell me," said Ethan. He sounded frail. "What should I do?" Seeing how Ethan never retaliated even after all that he said, Cameron knew that their powerful alpha had totally fallen head over heels for me. "Have you tried to put in more effort to court her?" Although Cameron knew it wasn't something Ethan would have done, he asked anyway. Ethan nodded and hummed in acknowledgement. Cameron was so shocked he almost bumped his head against the wall. After forcing himself to calm down, he asked, "Have you given her any presents?" I located the antique musical box she had shown a deep liking for, which was supposedly a gift from the moon goddess to the first-generation Luna. I went to great lengths to trade for it from an ancient pack in Eurofine, and even hired someone to repair the winding mechanism. He added. She thanked me politely and asked Marcus to store it away in the pack's relic collection room, placing it with the other relics and artifacts. Cameron felt slightly sorry for him. What about a date? Have you gone on any trips with her? I took her to the North End, and we watched the aurora together. Last year, we even went to her academy and stayed there for a week. Ethan seemed regretful after saying that. After listening to Ethan, Cameron shook his head. It seemed the presents weren't the problem. Ethan just didn't know how to express his feelings. However, he dared not voice his thoughts outright. Look, since you're the alpha of our pack, why don't you use your identity to your advantage? Tell her you don't want other alphas to have the chance to make an advance on her, Cameron suggested. Ethan's gaze flickered. He asked with hesitation. Do you think she'll stay by my side if I say that? There was a beep as Ethan's phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen and immediately froze. Even the light in his eyes dimmed. Upon seeing his reaction, Cameron quickly found an excuse to leave, saying he had to train the newly recruited warriors. He didn't want to be caught in Ethan's impending anger. Meanwhile, I was in my new apartment, staring at the message I had just sent. My fingers were still trembling. The message read, Alpha Ethan, I've contacted the pack elders. Let's proceed with the application to break our mate bond once you've confirmed when you're available. Ethan holed himself up at the training grounds after that, and even instructed Cameron to take charge of the pack meetings in his place. He was worried about bumping into me and didn't dare to reply to my messages. He knew once I saw him, the first thing I'd do was talk about breaking our mate bond for sure. After hiding out at the training grounds for almost 20 days, he finally became rattled when he heard that I had moved the pot of moonshine lily out of the house. Elena, we should celebrate your return to the design industry tonight, my best friend Sarah McKay said enthusiastically as she tugged my hand. I know a hunter-themed restaurant that has newly opened. They have heavenly grilled meat. Sarah was my classmate back when we were studying at Werewolf Academy. After graduation, she started working at a design company. On the other hand, because of Grandpa's dying wish, Ethan had always hoped I could stay at home and focus on our family. Although life as a Luna was free of worries, the working life could help me forget temporarily about the pain that would come with the breaking of our mate bond. It could also distract me from thinking about that person. Sarah and I got ourselves a private room at the restaurant. As we enjoyed the delicious food, we also downed the special hard liquor made by our kind. Unknowingly, my mind started becoming hazy. Under the influence of alcohol, I couldn't help but confide in Sarah. He's so powerful and excellent in every way, but I'll always be the responsibility he had to carry because of his promise to Grandpa. Now he can finally pursue the person he loves. I should be happy on his behalf, but my heart aches so much. In a daze, I thought I spotted a familiar figure. His ashen eyes were bloodshot. He seemed not to have been resting well. Alpha, I mumbled before slipping into unconsciousness. When I woke up, it was already morning. Looking around at the familiar bedroom, I remembered the person I saw before I fell unconscious yesterday. Ethan was back. I immediately rushed to the training room, only to find it empty. My heart clenched. I wasn't sure if it was out of disappointment or relief. You're awake. A deep voice sounded from behind me. I turned and saw Ethan standing at the doorway, holding a glass. He seemed to have thinned down considerably from when I last saw him 20 days ago. Yes, I am. I lowered my gaze, not daring to look him in the eyes. Here, have some honey water. It can help you sober up. He handed me the glass. Thank you, I said as I took it. I am going to wash up. Then, I briskly headed for the shower, hastily fleeing the scene. As I stood in the shower, I took a deep breath, trying to calm my pounding heart. Our 3-year-long mate bond was ending today. That thought left a sharp pain in my chest, almost suffocating me. As pain washed over me, a melodious ringtone reached my ears. Oh no, I almost forgot I had to deliver a design proposal to an important client today. Hastily, I dressed up, grabbed my purse and rushed downstairs. As I ran, I called out to Marcus saying, Marcus, please help arrange a ride for me. Where are you going in such a hurry? Suddenly, Ethan's confused voice came from behind me. He placed his hand lightly on my shoulder. I have to deliver a design proposal to a client. I gently moved his hand, my voice shaking slightly as I said, I'll be late if I don't leave now. However, Ethan grabbed my wrist and led me toward the dining room. Take your breakfast first. I'll arrange for the helicopter to take you there. I didn't expect to be alone with him. The atmosphere was stifling. I stole a few glances at him. His jaws were clenched tight, and his gaze was fixated straight ahead. He was like a perfect piece of art the moon goddess created. So much so that he felt very much distant from everyone else. I bit my lip and mustered the courage to speak. About breaking the bond. I reject, he interrupted me without hesitation. Surprised, I looked at him, only to notice he was averting his gaze and not daring to meet my gaze. Have I done anything wrong? There was a hint of fragility in his voice, one I'd never heard coming from him. Wrong. He had never done anything wrong. Even if there were, it would only be that he never had a place for me in his life. No, it's not that, I said softly. You're perfect. Then why do you want to break our mate bond? He put his mug down. Ashen eyes were filled with suppressed emotions, like the sky before a storm. A sadness I couldn't quite describe surged within me. Our mate bond was nothing more than a political marriage arrangement that our packs arranged in exchange for social status and power. Ethan was probably only refusing to sign the papers because he thought I didn't have the right to suggest breaking our mate bond. The whir of a helicopter sounded from outside the dining room, breaking the heavy tension in the air. Ethan rose to his feet and stopped asking further. The silence during the ride was unbearable. When I arrived at my workplace, I gently said, You can contact me anytime after you've come round. With that, I quickly headed for the cafe that the client and I agreed to meet at. As a result, I missed the pain in Ethan's gaze. Not budging, he mumbled under his breath. Do you really want to leave me that badly? However, I'm afraid I have to disappoint you this time. He looked just like a wolf who had lost its way. Soon an idea seemed to have come to him. He immediately called Cameron. The moment Cameron answered it, Ethan said, Cameron, tell me how I can make her stay. I'll give anything as long as she agrees to stay. On the other end of the receiver, Cameron was stunned. He had never heard their prideful alpha speak in such a humble tone. Cameron's first suggestion to Ethan was to be more approachable. When Ethan said he would pick me up at my workplace, I instinctively rejected that idea. However, he was already standing in front of my office. I was stunned. Was that really Ethan? His gaze was gentle, and a faint smile hung on his lips. He even exuded a comforting air, seemingly no longer distant. In fact, he felt very much approachable. I could barely recognize him, who'd always maintained a straight face. He seemed to have let his guard down, like a frozen lake melting as spring approached. When he saw that I was dazed, he took the initiative to close the distance between us. He even sounded coquettish as he asked, Is my dear Luna ignoring me? The way he spoke was entirely different from before. I gazed into his soulful eyes. Then I hastily looked away. My heart was racing. What brings you here today? I asked, pretending to stay calm. I'm starting to miss you. I haven't seen you all morning. When he said that, his gaze was soft and fully fixed on me. He wasn't holding back like he used to. My mind went blank, and all I could do was nod in a daze. On the way back, he persistently tried to engage me in a conversation like a chatterbox. He asked, What incense would you like to put on tonight? I just bought a few more scents. They are all the scents you like. Whichever would do. Then let's try the one with a combination scent of orange and lavender. I think you'll like it. I stared at him in surprise. I didn't expect him to be so thoughtful. Thank you, I said softly. Again, my notion of moving out of the house wavered. Are you getting along with your colleagues? Did anyone bully my dear Luna? He sounded concerned. I'm doing fine. My dear Luna is the best. I'm sure you'll be able to get along with everyone else, he replied, his tone filled with affection. His compliments sent a warm feeling running through me. I sounded more cheerful as I replied with a low hum. When we arrived home, I spotted the antique musical box being exhibited in the display case in the living room. Ethan walked over and opened the case. Soon harmonious music filled the room. I come here every morning to listen to it as I think of you. He not only remembered I liked that musical box, but had also expressed his longing for me through it. That realization truly gave me a warm, fuzzy feeling. All night long, I was lost in the tenderness of Ethan's gentle affection. Even after we'd returned to our respective rooms and I was already in bed, I still thought it all felt like a dream. When we formed our mate bond, he was 19, while I was 1 year younger. He was cold, distant, and had always maintained a stern expression. After 3 years, he never changed one bit. But now he'd taken the initiative to break the wall between us. Even the way he spoke was full of affection. He was more talkative, and his gaze was more gentle. He kept coming up with excuses to be around me. It was as though he was setting up a trap made of affection, waiting for me to walk in willingly. As for me, I willingly chose to enjoy every moment of it. However, life was full of surprises. One afternoon, I accidentally stepped on some silver powder outside the villa. The fine particles quickly spread all over me. I didn't want anyone to find out, especially Ethan. But as I was secretly trying to dress my wounds, he'd already darted over. Elena. His voice was tinged with apparent concern. Swiftly, he put on protective gloves before heading toward me. I wanted to tell him I was fine, but he'd already carried me into his arms carefully. He was extremely gentle, fearful that the silver powder would spread to the other parts of my body. Don't move. Let me help you. He used a special tonic to gently clean the silver powder from my skin, bit by bit. His brow creased and he started sweating. I'd never seen him that nervous. Are you injured anywhere else? He asked anxiously as he applied the preventive medication to me. I'm fine. It's just a scratch. You must be careful next time. He sounded concerned when he said, You must take good care of yourselves when I'm away. At night, he insisted on watching over me, claiming he had to monitor for any adverse reactions. In the middle of the night, I woke up with a jump after having a nightmare. In my dreams, Ethan and I eventually went our separate ways. I couldn't hold back my tears and started sobbing softly. Ethan immediately came to me and softly held my hands. Elena, don't be afraid. I'm here. His voice was gentle yet determined. I slowly calmed down, slipping into and out of unconsciousness. I heard him mumble, Don't leave me behind, please don't. I'm so scared I'll lose you. That was the first time I'd seen him so fragile. He was like a pup, afraid of being abandoned, pleading with me not to leave. I gently held his hand and smoothed the crease on his brow. I won't go anywhere. As long as you need me, I'll always be there. The next day when I woke up on my bed, I no longer felt the discomfort from the silver powder. The morning rays shone through the gaps in the blinds, and a faint smell of herbs filled the room. I got up to wash up, but I froze in my steps when I passed by the bathroom. Behind the frosted glass door, I could vaguely make out a slender figure. Water trickled off his broad shoulders and back, sketching a scene that made my heart race. My breathing became shallow and rapid. Elena. Ethan's voice rang out amidst the sound of water. He sounded like he was smiling. Do you want to shower? He asked. Flustered, I quickly left. My heart was pounding in my chest. Since when had he known how to tease like that? Due to the earlier incident, the atmosphere in the dining room had a slightly suggestive atmosphere to it. Elena. Ethan's handsome face suddenly loomed closer. I instinctively shrank backward. There's some jam on your collar. As he spoke, his finger grazed against my collarbone. It's clean now, he said with a smile that made my heart pound even faster. My brain felt like it had crashed after that exceptionally intimate action. Flustered, I lowered my head. I could feel my cheeks burn. What had gotten into Ethan recently? He kept teasing me in this manner. In the afternoon, my workplace group chat suddenly went abuzz. I casually glanced at it, but my blood went cold at the sight of Sophia's name. Sophia had come to the exhibition hall to check out the company's designs. My colleagues were excitedly discussing her, who was a legendary she-wolf. However, I felt uneasy. I tried to calm myself down. The hall was huge. We wouldn't run into each other. But alas, Murphy's Law never went wrong. My colleague, Chloe Downer, patted me. Elena, Andy wants you at the exhibition hall to introduce our new design proposal. I picked up my tablet and went over to the hall. The moment I entered, everyone's gaze fell on me. Among the crowd, I caught sight of the face that sent chills running through me. Sophia sized me up with a meaningful look in her eyes. She then asked Andy Jones, "So she's the new hire? There seems to be nothing special about her." Andy sensed something was off. He looked from her to me. "Do you two know each other?" "Oh," Sophia chuckled. "She's just someone I happen to know, no one important." Andy and Sophia began discussing the design details. As the designer, I had to stay beside them to explain my idea. The exhibition ended an hour later. Just as I was leaving, Sophia spoke. "Andy, could I please have some coffee with your employee?" Andy cast me a meaningful look. "Of course." In the cafe right across from my workplace, Sophia went straight to the point. Her tone dripped with sarcasm. "I heard you stepped on silver powder yesterday. How foolish. You'll only bring Ethan trouble." I subconsciously held onto a corner of my shirt. "Thanks for the concern. I'm fine now." She clicked her tongue and looked condescendingly at me. "An ordinary she-wolf like you can't even protect yourself properly. You are a waste of Ethan's time. He's an alpha with a strong sense of responsibility. He only took care of and protected you because he pitied you. You should have already understood that he's only being nice to you recently, because he felt guilty." Her words were like a poisoned dagger, stabbing where I hurt most. "This check," she said as she retrieved one from her purse and slid it over to me. "It's for $2 million. It should be enough for you to start a new life. A she-wolf like you should count yourself lucky for being able to secure such a great amount." With that, she gracefully got up, behaving as though she were merely giving alms to a beggar. Sophia's presence crushed all the romantic fantasies I recently had, and snapped me back to harsh reality. I didn't know why Ethan had been gentle to me recently, but what I knew was that I should be prepared to lose him any moment. The next morning at breakfast, I was scrolling through social media when a trending headline shook me so much that I almost toppled my glass of milk over. "Were well-taken shots, not ones taken without permission, seemingly exposed by those in the know." They were taken at a high-end accessory shop. Ethan was slightly bowed as he checked out the display case, while Sophia leaned close to him. They were so close to each other that it seemed romantic. Exclusive. Healer Sophia and the Alpha of Silvercrest pack shopping for jewelry. A new chapter unfolding. Enthusiasm filled the comments section. "Holy moly! Are they picking out their rings? How sweet!" Alpha Ethan is completely focused on the accessories. The gift he's looking for must mean something special. Are they going official? A healer and an alpha. What a destined couple. My ship has sailed. They are just too perfect for each other. Wishing them a lifetime of happiness. I couldn't refrain from clicking on Sophia's profile. Her most recent post sent a pang of pain into my chest. Picking out gifts is always a joy, especially when you're doing it with someone special. It was published 10 minutes ago. As I put down my phone, I could feel my stomach churning. "Elena!" Ethan suddenly called out to me. "The breakfast will go cold soon if you don't get to it." I nodded stiffly but couldn't bring myself to eat anything. I wanted to break our mate bond there, and then I wanted to run away from that suffocating room. Run away from the relationship that had been a mistake from the start. "Something seems off with you today." Ethan reached out, trying to feel my forehead. Instinctively avoided him. "I'm fine. You should head over to the meeting room first." Ethan frowned. He was about to call Cameron when the headline caught his attention. The moment Cameron answered, he heard a frosty voice questioning, "Why did you invite Sophia to be a healer for our pack?" Cameron was confused. "She's a skilled healer. What's wrong with inviting her to our pack? If it weren't for that, I wouldn't have to take that shot with her for the sake of publicity, and that photo wouldn't have appeared on social media. Elena must be behaving oddly because she saw the news. Get me another healer." Cameron felt wronged. "Alpha Ethan, now's not the time to fuss over that. Get someone to take down that article and explain the situation to your Luna. Quick. I don't want to be blamed if your relationship falls apart." Within half an hour, all related articles to that headline were taken down. Ethan, who normally had no care for social media, did something shocking. He signed up for an account and published his first and only status. I only love my Luna. Elena is my one and only mate for life. If anyone continues to share false information, my legal team will ensure there are consequences. He even tagged me in that status. When I noticed the sudden spike in the number of followers and messages, I was stunned. What was Ethan doing? The group chat I was in with my academy friends suddenly became active. I was so anxious I almost cried. My phone rang. It was from my stepmother. Elena, are you really the Luna of Silvercrest Pack? When can we meet the Alpha? We are your family after all. We are not family, I interrupted coldly. Not since 3 years ago. I have no guardians and you don't have custody of me. So stop saying we're family. I ended the call immediately after that. Soon, someone unexpected came looking for me at my workplace. Cameron appeared before me, wheezing for breath. Luna Elena, why did you turn off your phone? Do you need anything? I looked at him confused. There's something very important I have to tell you. He tried to pull me to my feet. Come with me. I took a step back and kept my distance. Sorry, I'm working. The moment I entered my workplace's exhibition hall, I was stunned by what I saw. All the employees were standing neatly in 2 rows on either side of me. Everyone clutched a stalk of moonshine lily. Frank stood at the front with a mysterious smile on his face. Luna Elena, welcome to Luna Dreams. Before I could speak, I heard a familiar voice coming from the stairs. Elena, you don't have to come to work from today onward, Ethan said as he descended the stairs. He wore a dark gray suit. He gazed at me gently as he continued, not anymore for the week. I was about to ask why when Frank solemnly announced, everyone, let me introduce you to our Luna, Ms. Elena Hudson. I was too shocked to speak, and was still dazed when Cameron invited me to his office after the reveal. Luna Elena took a seat across from me. His tone was gentle yet concerned. I know this all seems too sudden, but could you tell me what you think of Ethan? Upon noticing my silence, he continued. As his beta, I must ensure his happiness. Do you remember the antique musical box he spent a fortune to acquire from the ancient pack? Do you know he did that just to please you? He spent 3 whole days trying to persuade them. I was dazed. I thought it was just another piece of his collection. He told me to keep it in the safe. Cameron shook his head, feeling helpless. That was because he was afraid you wouldn't like the gift and thought up an appropriate excuse that you could use to reject it. He continued solemnly, Luna Elena, if you're serious about breaking your mate bond, I will honor your decision. However, you should know that it's been a long time since Ethan cared about someone that much. I hung my head. My heart was racing. Are you saying that he cares for me? Cameron nodded. Doesn't he want to break our mate bond? I asked, puzzled. Cameron shook his head. But he once said he would never like me, I said softly. Cameron sighed. That's just a facade he put up. Do you know how nervous he was when he took you to the north end to see the aurora? He'd even set up a wind protection system there a month before. But we still encountered a blizzard that day, Cameron continued. Then what about the day he visited your academy with you and the story of his past he told you? I accidentally stepped on silver powder. He was too busy dressing my wound, so he didn't manage to tell me about his past. A troubled look crossed Cameron's face. Luna Elena, this may be what fate has in store for you too. But he paused before continuing. If you don't feel anything for him, it's not too late for you to back out of the relationship. I looked up and straight into his eyes. I don't want to back out. I can't live without him. Stunned, Cameron then smiled with relief. Do you mean that? Are you saying that you like him too? I nodded slightly. Yes, I like Ethan. When I opened the door to the meeting room, Ethan was standing before the floor-to-ceiling window. He was telling off his employees. Contact all the digital creators involved in circulating this false information, and instruct them to remove the article within an hour. He sounded cold but restrained. Look into who took this photo. No matter who it is, I want them to understand the consequences of hurting my Luna. He continued, also, Initiate comprehensive internet surveillance. I don't want any negative comments to reach Elena. Go on. The executives turned to leave, but they froze in their steps the moment they saw me. Frank reacted first. He bowed slightly. Luna Elena. His words stirred the others back to life. After feeling the overwhelming pressure from their alpha, looming over them, they bowed in respect and swiftly left the room. Ethan's expression softened when he saw me. Long strides, he walked up to me. Concern shone in his eyes as he asked, Elena, why have you come here? Cameron chuckled behind me. Alpha Ethan, I've brought her to you. Remember your promise and stop coming after me and my dear Louise. Then he gracefully closed the door behind him. Ethan seemed oblivious to Cameron's comment. He carefully held my hand. Elena, the news was nothing but slander. Don't take them to heart. He was so anxious that his fingers were trembling. Having noticed that, I couldn't help but smile. I heard everything you said. Panic crossed his face. He looked like a pup who'd done something wrong. Was I too fierce? When I saw him in this state, I finally understood everything Cameron had told me earlier. Those seemingly awkward actions he had done in the past were all his clumsy way of expressing his love. Staring into his eyes, I asked softly, You took me to the North End to see the aurora. You gave me the Moon Goddess musical box. You also visited my academy with me. You did all that because you love me, didn't you? With every word I spoke, his ears reddened even further. He stuttered, trying to say something but ended up saying nothing. He merely nodded. He behaved just like an adolescent whose feelings had been uncovered. Ethan. I tugged his tie, forcing him to lower his head. Then, I whispered into his ear. I want to take back what I said. I don't want to break our mate bond, because I've fallen in love with you. Ethan stiffened. Even forgot to breathe. However, through his chest, I could feel his heart pounding faster and faster with every second. It was as though it was trying to tell me how joyful he was at this moment. Elena, you were saying, his voice was shaking, fearful that he had misheard. Without another word, I planted a gentle kiss on the corner of his lips. This time he was no longer someone beyond my reach. That night, I was lying in bed reading a book when I heard a scuffle outside the window. Pulling aside the curtains, I saw Ethan crouched on my balcony with a bouquet of freshly picked moonshine lilies. He looked like a high schooler sneaking into his lover's house. He looked hopeful yet anxious. Elena, can I come into your room and chat with you for a bit? I couldn't help but burst out laughing at the sight of the dignified alpha behaving like a teenager, who was just discovering what it meant to love. We cuddled against each other on the lounge chair out on the balcony as we talked about our past misunderstandings, and our hopes for the future. We kept talking until I fell asleep in his arms. The next morning, I was awakened by the morning rays shining on me. I opened my eyes to see Ethan gazing at me. His gaze was filled with overwhelming gentleness. I reached out and poked his cheek lightly. I purposely suggested, perhaps we should break our mate bond after all. His gaze turned grim as he swept me into his arms. It seems my Luna is still unclear about my feelings for her. Well, then let's go to the Moon Goddess altar, and carry out the bonding ceremony again. This time, I want the entire werewolf union to know you're my Luna. In a panic, I struggled to break free. Wait. I was just joking. It's too late. He snickered as he walked out. I've already had Frank prepare everything needed for the ceremony. Ethan. Put me down. No, not now, not forever.